Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. So let's talk about the assessment objectives first. Before you start preparing for your papers, you must be very clear about your assessment objectives. They are called AOs. There are reading objectives and there are writing objectives. So first, let's talk about paper 1, that is your reading paper. Now, what examiner basically is going to look for when he checks your paper? So, this is your paper 1 reading, and specifically in this video, I'm going to talk about your comprehension and use of language task. What are your AOs for this task, and what is the expectation of your examiner when he checks your paper? So before starting your preparations, you need to keep all these objectives in your mind so that you are clear about the mind of the examiner, that what are his expectations. So let's have a look. First of all, let's read the question, because the document that I have opened, that is the details of the assessment. So candidate answer all the questions in two compulsory sections. Candidates write their answers in the space provided on the question paper. This is first thing. Now, what is question number 1 in section A? In section A in your paper 1 is your comprehension and use of language task, that has 25 marks. So question number 1 is comprehension task. When we talk about comprehension task, basically we are talking about those 16 points, 16 marks that are provided for question number 1. Candidates respond to a series of sub questions based on text A. That is a narrative text. Most of the time it is a story or it is a fictional text. These are short answers testing understanding of both explicit and implicit meaning. Now, if you just recall all the points, all the things that we had been discussing in our class, I had been repeating these words again and again in my class: explicit, implicit, explicit, implicit. And I hope that you are clear about these words and their meanings. Explicit, when we say something is explicit, that is clearly mentioned, clearly written there in the text. And implicit is from hidden or implied. When we use the word implied, that means the information that you have been asked for, it is not clearly mentioned in the text. You have to write, you have to read the text, you have to understand it yourself, you have to infer the meanings, and then you have to write the answer in your own words. So text A is approximately 900 words long and is from either the 20th century or the 21st century text. This question tests the following reading assessment objectives, 16 marks. I'm talking about question number 1. Question number 1 has 16 marks and it is going to test these two reading objectives. Reading 1, R1 means reading 1. This is first assessment objective, and that is demonstrate understanding of explicit meanings. That means the examiner is going to check in these 16 marks that whether you are capable of understanding the explicit meaning of a text or not. Second thing is that demonstrate understanding of implicit meanings and attitudes, that whether you are capable of understanding implicit meaning of the text or not. So first, when we talk about explicit meanings, I'm talking about explicit and implicit. So in these 16 marks, you are going to be checked for these things. So how will you know that the question requires explicit understanding or implicit understanding? If your question starts with words like what, words like give, words like identify, that means that is an explicit question. It demands explicit understanding. You just have to go to the text, read it, find out the information, underline that information, and then write that information in the answer space. That can be copy also. You can just copy the words of the text and write it there. Here we just want you to understand that it is clearly written there. Take it out, write that in your own words, okay, fine. but if you just want to copy it, that is also allowed. So if your question starts with the words like explain, write in your own words, or tell about the feelings of the character, feeling of the writer or anyone, that means that requires implicit understanding. That shows that the answer is not clearly mentioned in the text. You need to understand the text. You have to write the answer in your own words. In all such questions where implicit understanding is required, you are not supposed to copy the sentences of the text in your answer place. You have to understand, and then you have to write that in your own words. All the questions that ask you for the feelings of the specific person, that means there you cannot copy the words from the text. If they ask that how the writer was feeling in paragraph number 1, that means you cannot copy any feeling or any detail that is given there. You need to understand the whole text, and then you need to come up with your own words and write that feeling in your own words. We will discuss all the questions one by one in detail. And second, if it asks for give two details, the question starts with the word give. That means it requires explicit understanding. So when it is give two details, you can copy the details from the text. Just take out the details and copy them in the answer section. So that is the only requirement when you are going to attempt those 16 marks, that comprehension task, that is question number 1. You need to show, now this must be on your fingertips, that basically what is required of you: explicit understanding, implicit understanding for these 16 marks. If that is explicit, it is bound to start with words like what, words like give, words like identify. If it requires implicit understanding, mostly the question will start with words like explain. It will ask you to write something in your own words. The question might ask about the feelings of a certain character, or it might start with the word how. So these are the assessment objectives for first 16 marks. Now let's talk about use of. Mostly students, they are not very clear about this question number 2, so we are going to discuss this now. Question number 2 is use of language task. Candidate respond to a series of sub questions based on text A. These are short answers worth a total of 9 marks relating to the author's use of language and the effect this has. That means here the requirement is how the writer is using the language, and what is the effect of that use of that language. So in this 9 mark section, basically we are dealing with R4. R4 means reading objective number 4. And what is that? Demonstrate understanding of how writers achieve effects and influence readers. That means that if writer is using certain words or certain vocabulary there in that question, what is the purpose of that, and how does the writer influence the reader by using those words, by using that kind of language. So basically all the question here in this task, in this use of language task, in these 9 marks, they are related to the use of language task, how writer uses language for conveying any particular message that he wants to give. So I'm just going to close it here, and after this, in my next video, we are going to discuss one comprehension task with examples and one use of language task with examples, so that you are clear about this. And then we will move to our second task, that is question number 3 is summary writing, and B, that is short response. Okay, so let's talk about next topic, that is summary writing task, that is comprehension task. Wait for the next video. Allah Hafiz.